Thank you, Lisa, and welcome everybody to today's Patient Safety Collaborative webinar. My name, as Lisa indicated, is Darlene Bolivar, and I am one of the co-chairs of the collaborative, and I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and my co-chair is Dr. Fergal McGee from Saskatchewan, and he's unfortunately unable to be on the line today. So welcome to everybody. And Lisa has a screenshot up on your screen of what the Knowledge Exchange Network, or what we fondly call KEN, page will look like. So this presentation will be loaded onto that screen on the CAPC KEN network shortly after the presentation, within a day or two. So people are certainly welcome to go and either revisit it or forward that link on to others who may be interested. So the Patient Safety Collaborative has been meeting for many years now on the fourth Friday of each month. We take a bit of a hiatus in the summer, but for those of you who are new on today's call, please feel free to join us at this same time, the fourth Friday of any month, and we would be happy to have you join us on a regular basis. Today's presentation is on a waiting room game for improved health care. So we're very excited to be bringing this to you today. Children and their families often experience prolonged waits when seeking care in any pediatric emergency department. Children in this setting experience pain, fear, and boredom, and their parents similarly experience anxiety and often are not well informed by the healthcare system. So the IWK Health Center has embarked on a research project with an industry partner to examine if game-based e-therapeutics in a pediatric emergency department waiting room will improve care. So the full bios of our two presenters will also be loaded on the Knowledge Exchange Network. But briefly, our two presenters today are Dr. Brett Taylor and Andy Wilcox. And Brett is an academic emergency pediatrician and health informatician attached to the Department of Emergency Medicine at Dalhousie University and the IWK Health Center Emergency Department here in Halifax. And he's also our physician lead for informatics here at the IWK. Andy is the founder and president of EverAge Consulting, which is a vendor-neutral content management implementation firm on the east coast of Canada. And he possesses more than 20 years of experience in the area of e-business and multimedia development. And as I mentioned, their full bios can be found on the Knowledge Exchange Network after the presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Brett first, and Lisa. I think Brett is muted.
Brett, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you. That's just to make sure that everybody's awake. It's just around noon here in Halifax this morning for everybody else. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to talk a little bit about a project that we've been running for about 3 years. We've made this presentation several times. This is the first time we've done it using internet desktop sharing technology. We have a demo that we hope is going to go flawlessly, and we will be totally unsurprised if there are glitches. So please don't be discombobulated if we make a number of minor changes as we go through. But this part is fairly straightforward. This is just an introductory slideshow to set you in the mood. So a couple of disclaimers about this. We'll be discussing the mechanisms we have and the relationship we have with industry partners and academics as part of this process over the course of this discussion. But to be clear right from the beginning, we've got a bit of a separation between the two wings here. Andrew Wilcox is the industry partner and developer and IP owner of iCareAdventure, and I am the medical and scientific lead in the project, and I'm not a financial participant in it. And we theoretically say this makes me an arm's length reviewer for the purposes of research. But in fact, we all realize that, in fact, I'm hopelessly enmeshed in this process emotionally, if not scientifically, if not financially. So, but just to make this disclaimer clear. So here's the problem. The problem is that waiting rooms are a challenge. Patients experience long waits. About 10% of all of our patients wait more than 3 hours to be seen by a physician. And we know that as waits get longer and workload gets higher, this intensely pressured workspace for triage nurses takes its toll on the quality of care we provide. We have great evidence that suggests that long wait times and high workloads, which is when errors are going to happen and when patients come in often more stressed because they're more bored and more frightened, we have poorer care, poorer communication, and poor satisfaction. And this is completely understandable. Anybody who's sat and watched triage nurses work understands just how high a cognitive load and how great the care pressures are on that position. We began by trying to see waiting rooms not as a challenge but as an opportunity. We have an opportunity for children to sit and their parents to sit in a waiting room for several hours and do nothing but listen to us. They are a captive audience should we choose to make efforts to take account of this. So many interventions have been shown to improve patient waiting room satisfaction, pain control, anxiety, and adverse behavior. And these things include commonly available off-the-shelf technology, high-quality information, for one, multimedia, medical clowning, distraction and gameplay. These are things that are almost always available through the child life specialists in our institutions across the country. Literature has also shown that when you introduce patient protocols to any setting, but particularly to the waiting room and to emergency care, you get better care. In other words, if you have a roadmap when your cognitive load is high and you follow that roadmap, you tend to make fewer errors. And we recognize, by combining these things, a possible role for e-therapeutics. E-therapeutics is a term that is now getting old. It's almost 2 years old, which in technology and informatics centers means it's at least midlife and perhaps entering old age. E-therapeutics is a term that means that the expertise required to provide a therapeutic solution goes in at design time. In other words, individuals will build a tool that provides clear instruction and patient pathing so that the patient can follow their own path through a complex problem. But then when the patient operates it, they don't need that clinician or that expert handy. So we see this as a possible role for our emergency department, and this is one of the things that guided our development. So our vision was a game-based information system that normalized the child's experience through play. Remember that in most of our waiting rooms, the fear of contagious disease has meant that we don't have toys or bright objects that they can handle anymore. So they come to basically a fairly sterile waiting existence, much like the waiting room in an airport. And we can normalize that by distracting them with gameplay. But in addition to that, we can inform them. We can reassure them and we can reframe their experience so that if they're experiencing fear of blood or fear of cast or fear of procedure, we can take that and reframe it into how these procedures help you, how cool the physiology of your body is, even the frightening parts of the physiology like bleeding. And we can provide an environment that allows protocol-driven, parent-delivered therapy to be applied in the waiting room. And then finally, we recognize, and any of you again who sat in a waiting room in an emergency department in February in this country realizes that the crowd rapidly becomes a rather unruly group. And it's quite possible for there to be perceived a great amount of competition between individuals who approach. So instead of having this competitive, we're all out for ourselves kind of environment, we hope that by encouraging safe and positive interactions between children and families, we can get to a place where everybody's pulling together a bit more of a playground waiting room than an airport waiting room or, I guess, an emergency department competitive waiting room. So we have an industry partner with this because none of us at the IWK have the skill set required to actually implement something like this. And Everidge is a local content management team, and they provided pro bono work on this for at least half of the development cycle. They came on board because they were interested in helping the IWK, and interested in providing assistance for children. They had these cool ideas that they wanted to bounce around, and this is basically a typical example of Halifax culture. The seeds of this project grew in a local bar over a few beers with a lot of blue sky talk and a lot of hand waving. And subsequently, as this began to settle down. We began to think that maybe we weren't just talking over beer, maybe there was actually something we could complete and deliver here. We had to formalize our engagement a little bit more. And we decided that Everidge would be complete IP owners of all content, even that content which might be generated by some of the research team. And subsequently would be system developers. Our bargain on this is that we get to use it, the program and and get supported for the use of that program in the future. So no research has any financial incentive, no IP ownership, and that theoretically, in the terms of writing grant and publication drafts, says that we're arm's length, fair, arbitrary benefit. But you can all appreciate after 3 years we are emotionally completely entangled in this product. We love it. So what is it? What is iCare Adventure? iCare Adventure is first and foremost a game. And it allows both parallel and individual play between children who sit in the waiting room. We have carefully controlled player interaction. It is possible to send messages to each other, but it's not possible to send messages that might be disturbing or might be insulting. The game is controlled on individual iPads, which we hand out after triage at registration, and it is displayed on a large wall screen. This will become a little clearer in the demo. There is both content on the iPad that you can play, and we use the iPad to deliver the information, but the large wall screen provides context and settings so that you can see where other kids are playing and you can go and visit them. It's also an information dispensing system. We've spent quite a bit of time developing therapeutic videos that demystify illness and injury, reframe frightening circumstances. Think of it as Sesame Street for pediatric emergency care. We use Sesame Street as a model. We also use something like Shrek as a model. We want these videos to speak to children, but we want them to be funny enough and silly enough that perhaps adults might be engaged enough in them, because there are messages that transcend childhood and go into adulthood. Adults may say that they're pretty calm when they walk in with their child with a broken arm, but in fact they're quite frightened about what might be happening with their child. And if we can settle them down as well, that's one step further to settling down children. From the informatician's perspective, the most exciting part of this for me is the automated patient pathway system. This is this e-therapeutic platform that allows us to put protocols and feedback loops between the patient and the system so that they can initiate and manage and direct to some extent their own care. We've provided 2 examples of this in the initial version, but we expect we will be providing more. Pain management, in which pain surveillance is started the moment the child sits down and is continued intermittently throughout their stay in the waiting room, and through which the results of this feedback as needed in a glanceable display to the triage nurse to say, look, this kid's pain that you thought you had managed or didn't recognize or perhaps thought they had managed before they arrived, this pain is no longer being adequately managed and a step up in care has to be provided. We've also put in an oral rehydration therapy management pathway, which allows us to teach children and explain to children in much greater detail than we can when you're a triage nurse and you've got 5 minutes to complete the entire process. It allows us to teach them how to use Pedialyte, which in the waiting room. I don't know if any of you have tasted Pedialyte. The vast majority of people think it tastes like chalk. It's rather difficult to convince a 4-year-old that this is actually a good idea when I'm nauseous to swallow chalk. And this gives us an opportunity to explain to these kids, you know what, we're not completely nuts. This is not just a dumb adult thing. This is something that actually will help you. So fundamentally, I want you to think of this as an information management platform that's got a game as a hook. And our child life specialist, who's been intimately involved with this, she in fact is the clinical lead for this project, would say to me, this is fundamentally a game that distracts and entertains children, and it has as a side effect this information management platform. But if you can see both sides of that discussion, you can see what we're trying to derive. I'm going to pass this over to Andy at this point, and I'm just going to mute myself until I'm told to come back online.
Okay, so we have another slide. Before we switch presenters, though, there's one more slide on Brett's desk.
Here you go, Andy. Have you got it?
I'm not seeing your your slide right. Oh, there we go. Okay, so yeah, one slide just before we take off into the demo. Because this is a virtual demo, I wanted to give everybody sort of a tangible concept in their mind about what this is, what the various pieces of the puzzle are. So for starters, we've got 30 iPads. The iPads are stored in an iPad cart, which conveniently not only keeps them safe, but it's also the place where they get charged. These iPads in the cart connect to a server, and the server is connected to a router. So when an iPad is handed out to a patient, that iPad is connected to the server via the router. So they can move within the emergency department without wires, using a device that's easily sort of wiped down and kept sterile. In addition to the iPads themselves, there are two other sort of important components. One is we've got a television set that is displaying a grid view of landmarks, and I'll show you that when we get into the app. It's basically the larger game play that shows where all of the patients are located inside the game. And in addition to that, we actually have a robot, and the robot's name is Reedy. Reedy stands about 1.5 feet tall. He is mounted on a wall in the IWK emergency right beside the television set. And the idea with Reedy is that he is an additional mechanism for us to help reinforce therapeutic coping skills. So as an example, one of the dialogues with Reedy is teaching kids how to do deep breathing, which is a skill that they might be able to make use of when they go in the back and the procedure might be, disturbing or painful or make them anxious. They've already been taught about deep breathing, and the nurses could use that as a tool then. And there are several different dialogues that Reedy goes through. And when Reedy engages with the patients via their iPads, we also invoke different images on the big screen as well. And it's unfortunate, this is an aspect of the application which we're not going to be able to demonstrate today, so I just wanted to take a few minutes to describe it. If Reedy will come up on the patient screen and he'll say, I'm in trouble, can you help me? So the kids get to interact with the robot. And up on the screen, we also display a video of Reedy's, his boss, his commander, and the two of them have a bit of a dialogue, and the idea is that the dialogue between Reedy, which is a physical robot, and his commander, which is a video that shows on the big screen TVs, we're able to sort of, through the dialogue, reinforce some of these coping techniques that we want to get across to the children as well. So there's many different sort of aspects to the app. What we're going to do today is we're going to show you the basics of the application. As I indicated, we're not going to be able to show you the robot because this is a webinar and the robot is a physical entity. So the demo will be sort of minus the robot part. So you can hand that control over to me now, Brent. And now everybody should be seeing a view of an iPad. Just a small note that these are iPad minis. The reason why we went with iPad minis, twofold. One is that just a little bit smaller for kids, easier for them to hold. And secondly, they damage less easily if you drop them. So for those two reasons, we decided to go with the minis, and they're less expensive. So once a patient has been through triage and has gone to the registration desk, the registration clerk will take out an iPad from the cart, turn it on, start the application, and this is the first screen that the registration clerk will see before handing over to the patient. Part of the triage process would be for the triage nurse to indicate on a piece of paper what type of content might be appropriate for the patient and what their presenting conditions would be. So the idea here is that the registration clerk would say, okay, well, it's male or female. Let's say it's a female patient. And let's say that they've got a fracture. We want to put them on the pain protocol. And we should give them some informational videos about broken bones and how about holding still, because they might need to hold still during part of the procedure. They click this next button, and at this point, this is where the registration clerk will hand the iPad over to the patient. When we do so, we lock the iPads down in what is called in iPad terms guided access, and what that means is that the patient does not have the ability to exit out of the game. They're stuck in this game, and this is all they can do with it. So from here, the patient will take it, and they go on to the next screen. The first thing that the patient gets to do is configure their avatar. And there's many things you can do. You can change your hairstyle to different hairstyles. You can decide if you want to have glasses or not. You can change your skin tone. And you can change your outfit. I want to be a superhero. Maybe I want to change my hair. There. And because we don't want to use the patient's real names, we allow them to come up with a funny nickname. So by changing these two little scrolling wheels, they come up with a word combination, which will become their nickname during gameplay. So I'm going to be Fast Bunny. From here, because I clicked off on the pain protocol, it's going to give me a faces scale where I can denote how much pain I'm facing. And I've got a little bit of a sliding scale here where I can pick the level, or I can click on a particular face. And you notice that the face that I'm dealing with corresponds to my avatar that I've configured. So we've got versions for every permutation of player configuration. We can display those here. So I'm going to pick this. The next screen it's still a faces screen, but here we're looking at mood. This first one's pain, this one's mood, and everybody gets the mood faces scaled despite whether you're on a pain protocol or not. So from here I can say I'm very sad, I can say I'm very happy, somewhere in between. Now from here, the next screen we're going to actually be launching into the game, and as soon as we do, we've got a video that will pop up, actually 3 different videos that every patient has to see. The first is one of Brett. I'll play just a little bit of it, and then there's 2 other videos following, and I'll sort of play those through.
Hi, my name is Brett Taylor. I'm an emergency physician and a researcher at the IWK. You're looking at this message because we're doing a research project in the IWK, and we would like to ask for your help. We are trying to make the emergency department waiting room a less scary place, a more caring place, and a less boring place for your children. We know that there are times when, despite everything we do, people wait a long time in that room.
So I won't play the entire video because we talked about what this project's about, but this is a video that we play for the patients explaining that this is a research project and that there is a survey that we need them to fill out. This video will be removed probably in another week when we finalize the research gathering phase. So I'm going to skip by it. And the next video we get into is Buddington.
Hi there! I'm so glad you're here! It's me, Buddington the Clown. I'm here to welcome you on your very own I Care adventure. You're going to have so much fun here. You're going to get to visit amazing places from around the world. You'll get to make new friends, and you'll also get to learn about how amazing your body is. Oh, wow. You're going to get to make your own player, too. And you can choose everything about it. What it looks like its hair color, or clothes it's wearing, or its nickname. And you can change your player at any time. All you got to do is touch the passport image. Right over there. Then you'll get to travel on a magic carpet to all the different amazing places in the world just by moving your player up, down, left, or right. And you can see where other players are by touching the compass, which is right over there. Once you see other people in the same place as you, you can meet them by touching their players. And when you do that, you can play games, send messages, or even send hearts. But always be on the lookout for Riti the robot. He is a robot from another planet who's been sent down here to explore Earth. The only problem is Riti is not a very good explorer, so he's going to need your help. Will you do that for me? Okay, thanks. Now, it's very important to know that if you're not feeling well, you can change your health and your mood status just by touching the passport details right over there. And the map, which is right here, will show you lots of stuff. It will show you how long you've been waiting and how long roughly you're going to have to wait. And the travel journal right here is very important too. If you click it, you'll see things like nurse instructions, notes that you might want to ask your doctor, your messages, your videos, and other questions that people are wondering about. That's a lot of cool stuff for your very own eye care adventure. I'm so glad you decided to come on the adventure with us. See ya around the world.
And the next we have is a video about triage.
Hi, Buddington.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Anne.
Hi, Anne.
I'm the triage nurse today.
Hi, Anne, the triage. What's a triage nurse?
Well, the triage nurse is the very first person that starts taking care of you when you come to the emergency department.
Because you just see me, and you're the first person to be taking care of me here.
Exactly.
Well, you're doing a good job.
So when you come into the emergency department, you're going to come see the triage nurse,
Uh-huh.
and we're going to listen to you or the grown-up that came with you.
Oh, okay.
Tell us about how you're sick or hurt or not feeling well.
Oh, so we can tell you all that you need to know.
All that we need to know.
Like if my belly's hurting, I can say, Anne, the triage nurse, my belly's hurting.
Exactly. And
Right.
then the triage nurse is going to give you a little check over.
What's a checkover?
So listen to your lungs,
Okay.
listen to your heart, take your temperature.
Okay.
What else are we going to do? We're going to do your blood pressure.
Oh, the arm hug thing, right?
Exactly. So we're going to do all of those things.
All of those things, and then I get fixed up and get to leave right away, right?
No.
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 So you still would need to see the doctor,
Okay.
but the triage nurse, after she does all those things,
Uh-huh.
is going to decide if you need care right away, and if you do, she's going to help you with that or send you along to somebody who can do that for you right away.
Oh, good, 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 good,
Okay.
good, good. Yeah.
But there's something else I need to tell you, buddy.
What?
So sometimes when you come to the emergency department, you have to wait.
Waiting is kind of hard for a kid.
I know. I understand.
Why would I have to wait?
Because sometimes there's kids who come who are sicker.
More sicker than me?
Exactly.
They may feel worse than me?
They may feel worse than you, and they may need help right away.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be really only fair if they went first and if they were
Yeah,
feeling
I
more
think
worse.
so. And do you know what else I have to tell you, Buddington, is that everybody gets taken care of when they come to the emergency department.
Do you promise?
I promise.
Wow.
You're important to us no matter what. But sometimes we have to see those kids who are a little bit sicker first.
Because just because you take somebody that you to help faster doesn't mean that they're more important.
Exactly.
It just means they need to be helped sooner and faster.
Right.
Huh. Okay, so one more question
Sure.
for you, Anne,
Okay.
because this is kind of on my mind.
Okay, absolutely. Go ahead.
While I'm waiting, what if I start to feel worser
Okay.
and sicker?
So if you start to feel sicker, there's two things that you can do.
What?
So the first thing you could do is your iPad that you have.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
You can change your mood on the iPad,
My mood.
or you can change your pain rating.
Oh,
And guess what? The triage nurse has a screen at their desk that can see that.
that's pretty handy.
But then the other thing that's really important, Buddington, is if you're feeling really sick and you need help right away,
Right away.
you can come back, or your grown-up that's with you can come back.
Me or the grown-up.
You're the grown-up can come back and talk to the triage nurse.
And say, oh boy, feeling way worse right now.
And then the triage nurse can help you.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Does that make sense? Sounds good, right?
That is such a good system you got going on here. Thank you, Anne.
No problem, Buddington.
All right, there we go. We've got, you might have noticed, if you're listening closely enough, you could hear the rest of us laughing in the background with some of those sequences. Buddington's pretty funny. So those videos, the players have to watch them. They're queued up, and then they kind of get into the gameplay. And we noticed that as soon as we jumped into the game here, we got a notice from Reedy, the robot. Now, at this particular point in time, if I were to choose yes, the actual robot on the wall would start to talk. Now, since we don't have the robot, I'm going to sort of bypass that and sort of tell a little bit about the gameplay. We gave you a bit of a lay of the land, or Buddington did in that introductory video. We're using a travel metaphor as a mechanism to help children with guided imagery kind of mentally get themselves out of the waiting room and to experiencing something that's a little bit more fun. There's lots of different places to go and see. Right now this is Chichen Itza. If I click on the compass, we're going to see a bunch of other type of landmarks, and you'll notice that these landmarks are moving around. You know, the reason that they move is just to kind of shuffle things up a little bit to make it always different for the children when they're sort of moving around throughout the game. And you can actually see other children as well. So notice that down in this corner, the lower left-hand corner is my player, but in the upper right-hand corner there's another player. Now I am running two iPads right now. I'm running the one that you're viewing, and then I have another iPad on my desk with the other player. And I'm going to touch my player, and I'm going to move him around. So you see the little boy in red, the view that you're seeing here shows how I'm, however I move is being displayed in the grid. This view that you're looking at right here is actually what gets projected onto the big screen TV, so the children can look at the TV and see where all the other players are. And of course the TV also does double duty for displaying the videos of Reedy's commander that kind of go along with the robot sequences as well. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to move my red boy down so that he can be in the same location as the girl. So here we are. We're both in the same location now, and I'm going to go back and we're going to see that we're both here. I can take my girl, and I can move my girl around on one, and I can take my boy and move him around here. So I've got these two players now, and I can actually start to interact with them. And I can, since I'm the girl, I can click on the boy, and I can say, okay, what would you like to do? Would you like to send them a message? Would you like to invite them to play a game? Or would you like to send them some hearts? So if I say, oh, I'd like to send them some hearts, then the hearts travel from me, and you might have noticed that my little heart counter here went down. So the idea here is not to necessarily collect, but it's to give away. And this is kind of where we're trying to, bring in the concepts of compassion and allowing the children to show compassion for one another. Likewise, if I'm the boy, I can click on the girl and I can say, I would like to send a message. And I'd like to say, how are you feeling? So now I'm the girl, and I got a little message from the boy, and this is how are you feeling? And I can respond. I can say, oh, I feel great. And that message gets sent back to the boy. So you can see that there's a number of different things that we've done. We can play games. We've got Would You Rather. So simple games like Would You Rather be a superhero or super smart, and all sorts of questions like that. We have another game that's called Guess Where they use the actual landmarks and facts about the landmarks to play kind of guess where. And we can send hearts and send other various messages back and forth. Conveniently, you'll notice that we've got the International Space Station traveling overhead. This is a little bit of an Easter egg. I'm going to click on it, and lo and behold, I've got this screen comes up that says, we've got a video from Chris Hadfield. Would you like to hear about the International Space Station? Let's say yes.
Hi, my name is Chris Hadfield. I'm an astronaut. I've flown in space 3 times. Have you ever thought about what happens to an astronaut if they get sick when they're living up on the space station orbiting the world? What would they do if they got sick? They couldn't just go see a doctor or go to a hospital. And that means the astronauts have to train to take care of each other. Amongst all the other things we're doing, flying the spaceship and doing the experiments, we have to train as emergency medical technicians or nurses or doctors to be able to take care of each other. It's not nearly as simple as it is on Earth, where you can just go see a doctor or go to the hospital. I remember when I was young and I first time had to go to the hospital, I was worried. I was sick, so I didn't feel well. I was worried that I didn't know what was going to happen. I was worried that maybe they wouldn't be able to fix my problem. But at the same time, I felt kind of good about it because I was talking to the experts. I was taking a problem that I couldn't solve myself or my family couldn't solve, and we were going to see someone who had studied, who had learned, who had practiced, and who knew what to do when someone's getting sick. And so even though being ill is no fun, whether you're on Earth or whether you're an astronaut flying in space, the really important part is to be able to trust somebody else, is to be able to present your problem to someone who really knows what they're doing and let them help you make it better. And I was really happy to have been able to do that as an astronaut at the space station, but also back here on Earth.
So that was pretty exciting for us to have Chris Hadfield participate with us and do that video for us. We were thrilled. Thanks to Brett for being able to set up that connection for us. So as I play, I'm going to sort of zip off to another place here, and I'm going to just sort of run around briefly. I want to see how far away am I from some of the other landmarks. So I'm going to just show you one other video. Now, because I'm the only player right here, I'm going to keep ignoring Riti when he comes up to want to talk to me. This is another sort of message that comes up on a regular basis. This is the triage nurse pops up and says, can you give me a status of how you're feeling? And from here, I'll go back in and readjust my pain and my mood settings, and that'll happen every 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to figure out where I am because I'm getting lost myself. Okay, there we go. So here's a video about
Hi, everybody. It's your friend, Buttons in the Clown, and I'm here at Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is actually 3 different falls of water between Canada and the United States. There's a small one and a medium and a large one, and together they're Niagara Falls. The small one is the Bright Old Bay of Falls. It's in New York. The medium is called the American Falls. In America, kiddingly, it's 180 feet tall and 1,000 feet long. Nothing to be ashamed of, American Falls, but the largest falls are the Horseshoe Falls in Canada. In Ontario, 90% of the water falls down those falls. That's 5.5 billion gallons of water an hour. Amazing. But I want to tell you the story about what happened in 1848. It got so chilly and cold, and the wind blew so long and hard that the falls stopped running. Can you believe it? There were no falls that were falling, but we're so lucky they started again, because now we can enjoy them all together. They were formed when the Ice Age caused lots of melting, and then people started to get ideas about what they want to do on those falls. Like in 1901, a 63-year-old teacher from a school named Annie Edson Taylor got in a bucket, went to the top of the falls, and went right over. 14 other people have done it since then, but this time won't be one of them. But I just wanted to tell you about the awesome Niagara Falls.
So there you have a sample of one of the videos that we play on those landmarks, and there's different segments for each one of the landmarks as the kids kind of get into it. So that's going to be the end of the completion of the demo. Brett, we're going to go back to the slide deck now, So I'm going to let, we'll switch back over to you. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm back. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to, I wanted to talk a little bit about the application from its various layers, and sort of Brett was alluding to this, beginning. So if we kind of break it down to its components, it might make it a little easier to sort of wrap our heads around really what it is. And at its core, there's gameplay. There's landmarks that you can go and visit. There's games you can play. You can send hearts. And really those elements provide a means of distraction. It provides the children a way to express compassion with each other, and provides an ability for the kids to utilize guided imagery. Now on the next level, the next slide there, Brett, we've got video content and we've got the robot interactions. And from video content, there's really there's medical related videos about broken bones. There's coping related videos about worrying or being anxious, and there's other sort of instructional videos, how to take Pedialyte, etc. Those all sort of, they either sort of reframe the situation. So if you've got a broken bone, describing that the broken bone will actually be stronger after it's healed than it is now, as a way of sort of reframing it from something negative, something positive. They're also educational, and we can also teach various therapeutic, coping capabilities. And then we have the robot interactions as well, and they can accomplish the same thing. The next layer is really about the patient input. So we saw that we had some FACES scales there where they could adjust their mood and their pain level. We could also add in various questionnaires. Of course, this information could all be used in reporting capability. It's all about patient self-assessment, improved communication, gathering data. And then finally, the last layer of the application is about various customizations for different deployments. So we've got a deployment for emergency. There could be deployments for pre-op, for orthopedic, for any number of scenarios where a system like this could be beneficial. So we can personalize the application to what might be going on. We can adjust the duration of play. We can even adjust the degree to which the children are free to explore on their own versus how much of it is we lead them through in a kind of a guided way. So there's a number of sort of different aspects of this, and depending what we tweak at each one of these layers, we can accomplish a wide variety of capabilities from the tool. And with that, I believe I'm going to hand it back over to Brett, who's going to carry on the slide presentation from there.
So that's an overview of the technology. From our perspective, we are academics. We work in emergency departments. Many of us on the team have been involved with administration. We know that it's simply financially and medically hazardous to simply introduce technology without providing evidence of benefit. And that evidence of benefit has to be local. This has to work in my setting. It has to be credible, so it has to be in a real-world kind of setting, and it has to be contextual. It has to work for the problems that we're identifying in our group. So we have arranged we had a series of questions that were the basis of our research project. We're going to be completing data collection on the project in the next 6 hours. So our primary questions: does exposure to Karmaville is the old name for eye care. Does the exposure to our game-based system result in better parent and patient satisfaction? Does it result in better pain control? Does it increase the quantity of oral rehydration therapy consumed in the waiting room? And then because we thought that maybe kids who were more settled and less pained and more prepped and partially treated might spend less time in the back with physicians and acute care nurses once they've left the waiting room, we wanted to ask if they were associated with shorter emergency department times when seen by a physician or fewer interventions. And our methodology was an uncontrolled, unblinded, controlled clinical trial where the intervention was exposure to our system and the control was standard care. We gave information by handout, and we basically collected all of our data of significance either through chart review or survey completion. And our outcome measures are basically what you'd expect. Parent and patient reported data on satisfaction and pain, and parent-reported consumption of oral rehydration therapy, and then the secondary measures we would gather through chart review. So our population with those kids 4 years and older, but we've been handing out the iPads to any child younger who asks for it. For the purposes of the study, we're excluding those with mental health issues, but mental health issue patients can still be given iPads, they just aren't included in the study. And we also exclude those who have difficulty communicating in English, and of course any time when our study might interfere with care. And unfortunately, I don't have results to show you. If this was another week from now, we would have had probably results. But at this point, our data collection ends today. We know that as of a week ago, we had 900 patient visits. We expect to reach 1,000, which meets our needs for the power calculations for our study. We know that we have preliminary assessments from our 2 quick looks at the data that show very significant improvements in satisfaction and distinctly significant improvements with regards to pain control on those days in which our system is active. We probably don't have good numbers to address hydration. If there's one way to make sure you control illness, it's to try to study it. The moment you try to study it, it goes away. There was no major gastrointestinal epidemic during our study collection period this year. We hope to continue and look for that over the next few months, and hopefully we'll be able to obtain some data regarding it. And I haven't even begun to look at the secondary objective data yet. We have some lessons learned. The first is that our model of industry and clinical collaboration works. It requires clear understanding and rigid adherence to IP ownership rules, and that's an important point because I think it's a point that can potentially, not with us, raise some issues. We have to persist through those individuals who tell you that this isn't the way to do it. There are many people who came up to me in the hallway and said, look, money should be coming back to the IWK, you should be financially involved, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but we have to keep our eye on the ball. Our purpose on this is to develop something that works for children. Our purpose is to encourage an eager, fully involved local industry partner who wants to become involved with this, and we do not want to get involved, frankly, in the business of this. I have no capability of that and no specialty in it, so it makes sense to simply not be involved at that level. We've relearned the idea that change management is very, very difficult. We knew this, but the emergency department is a challenging collaboration of equals. Everybody has their own job to do, and they do it their way, and the rest of us don't really get that. So we had very large periods of our time were spent trying to make sure that the workflow wasn't disrupted by the introduction of this device. It's very important that the person who enters the data sees the benefit, and we hope that the triage nurses and the registration clerks do see the benefit of the data they enter. It's very important to have local champions. And it's very important to have incentives, particularly at the beginning where you've got the natural cynicism and skepticism that we all learn while we're coming through medicine towards any new-fangled device. Our population is incredibly variable, and we're going to get different feedback from different groups. Rollout is really a request for end-user input, and it's critical for us to understand, therefore, that rollout is an iterative process. We've rolled it out once here. We're going to take the lessons learned, we're going to roll it out again and again and again with improvements each time. So success, in other words, is an iterative process. I think it's very important to incorporate improvements suggested by experience because that validates this process with your frontline workers. They need to know that they own it a little bit. And we need to have validation of the scales that we're using. Right now, that's not part of our initial research process, but over the next few months, we hope to validate, for example, the in-game pain and happiness scale, seek further evidence for the effects on ORT, and we want to add new e-therapeutic treatments, such as perhaps asthma. We know that many asthmatics wait for 2 or 3 hours in the waiting room before they're seen and wait 4 to 6 hours in the back. Wouldn't it be great if we could have them fixed before we get to the back? If you're interested in collaborating with us, we're interested in extending this project beyond the IWK. If this sounds like something you might fit into your institution or you're aware of people in your institution we would like to chat to, we want to hear from them. Please don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Give us an email. So quick summary, because I want very much to have time to answer any questions. This is a game, okay? And that's perfectly legitimate. All by itself, that's a win. We are taking kids who are bored to tears, and boredom is an adverse event that occurs as a result of our health care. If we can distract them, if we can minimize that, that by itself is a reason to do this. But in addition to this is a child life worker and a triage nurse extender. We have one child life worker in the emergency department, the IWK, who's intimately and completely involved in the content management for this project. And we can get more out of her. Not as good as having a real person, but in terms of exposing many, many kids at the same time in the waiting room where our child life worker often doesn't end up going, that is another reason to have this project. It's a platform for e-therapeutics in the waiting room, and this is a new idea, the idea that we can not just guide people through their own care, but guide them in the waiting room so that they're better prepped for us in the back. This is something that really hasn't been explored a lot in the literature, and we're hoping to break new ground with it. Fundamentally, this has been a huge pain in the butt. It's been a 3-year process that has been a battle to get funding, to get space, to get it done, to make sure that it worked. And then we obliged ourselves to do a robust evidence of benefit process at the end. It was 3 years in getting going. It looked like Big Bang to the frontliners, but to us it was just like continually, slowly ramping up. And it required intensive involvement from all principals, most particularly Andy, who I have to say virtually lived at the IWK for big chunks of the winter. Whack-a-mole management is a term that I think applies. And tentatively, based on preliminary data that we'll analyze more over the next month or so, I think we're going to succeed. So thank you very much for your attention today. Really appreciate the fact that you attended, and we're more than open for questions should there be any. Passing it over to you again, Lisa.
Thanks very much, Brett and Andy. That was fabulous. I have no questions at this moment, but I'm just going to encourage people to type their questions into the question pane.
Lisa, it's Elaine. If I can ask a question. As soon as my phone stops ringing, my apologies for that. Lisa, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, just a second. Lisa?
Yes?
Sorry about that. Dr. Taylor, it's Elaine Orbine and Andy and Dr. Taylor. What a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much. Just a comment. I must say, I just couple comments actually, and maybe a suggestion. Your comment about the industry and clinical collaboration working, I think that's that topic is maybe worthy of a presentation on itself at some point, because there's a lot of discussion, and I think there's a lot of merit in looking at different partnership opportunities to allow us to move innovation forward, obviously all in the main interest of improving patient care, and in this case in the ER. I think that just as an opportunity, I just wanted to flag that next year, although it's a year away, 2016 in the fall, our annual conference is coming to Halifax, and the IWK is our host. And I think this might be a fantastic presentation. I know you'll have lots and lots of data by then, and your invitation for others to collaborate. I can't imagine that you wouldn't get a tremendous reception to that invitation. So I just plant that as a seed, and maybe between Lisa and I and people like Darlene and Marianne Hiltz and Tracy Kitch, etc., we can keep that on the radar for our conference, and maybe see what we can do with a follow-up between now and then. So just congratulations on this, just outstanding presentation, Andy and Brett, and I think the potential here is huge for national collaboration.
Oh, you're
Thanks very much for that.
you're muted, Brett.
Am I still muted?
Oh, you're good now.
Okay. Thanks very much for those comments. It is something that we feel very proud about, and I do see it extending not just throughout emergency departments across the country, but any place that kids have to wait in some degree of anxiety. So your point about the CAPC meeting next fall is perfect. I haven't really looked at the calendar to see where that was, but I'm sure we'll be putting something in for it.
Yeah, so it would definitely have to keep that front and center. But this is fantastic, and I agree. The opportunity to go beyond the emergency rooms is absolutely there. Yeah, it's an innovation to the wait times challenge. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So I do have a question here. So what are your introductory cost estimates for the complete system? If that's something that...
I'm going to pass this over to Andy in about 2 seconds. I'll just say very quickly, from our perspective, one of the reasons that we were so happy with this collaboration is because the only cost to the IWK to get a system for the next several years that is of this quality is the actual cost of the materials itself, which is pretty small. But I won't comment on the cost of implementation. I'll pass that over to Andy. Maybe you could hook him up, Lisa.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I guess the short answer is we don't know precisely what those costs are going to be, and it's something that I think we need to start looking at. We haven't really been focused too much at a level of commercialization yet because we see that there's probably still some more development and or research that really kind of needs to go into it. At some point in time, however, though, I would be thrilled to see this at a state that it could be commercialized. For those hospitals, though, that would like to participate in research, I think there's a strong value proposition there that we could perhaps come to, and really I probably highly regard feedback from those listeners as to what their expectations would be in that regard.
So I have a bunch of people saying thank you for the great presentation, and just a reminder that it has been recorded and you can share that with other folks at your organizations. And again, if you need to or want to get in touch with Dr. Taylor or Andy to participate in some further research, you can do that through me, or we can if you caught their email addresses at the end. But if you want to connect through me, that's fine. I can get you all connected up. So, any other thoughts or comments, Darlene?
No, I just want to extend my thanks to both Brett and Andy for bringing this to us, and they're getting some airplay on local CBC as well, so hopefully that will be picked up broader also to get their good work out there. So thank you both very much. And just to wrap up the call, I just want to remind people on the line that the next call will be on May 22nd, and so please feel free to join us. Lisa will be sending information out on the topic at a later date. And as always, if you have any suggestions for a presentation or anything you'd like us to bring to you, please funnel those through Lisa, and we'll do our best to do that. And Elaine mentioned the 2016 CAFC conference, but there obviously will be one in October of 2015 as well. And there's a call out for poster abstracts for that conference at the moment, and you can access more information from that or about that on the CAFC conference program website at cafc.org. So again, thank you everybody for participating in the webinar, and especially thank you to Brett and Andy for bringing this work to us.